Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome so much to my show. I'm Royce Morales. I am the founder and the teacher of Perfect Life Awakening, which is a series of spiritually based courses and inner work that helps you go from triggered to transformed. I love that tagline. It's so fun. I've written 3 books about my teachings, and they're all available on Amazon. And be sure to check out my YouTube station, because I talk a lot about some of the stuff that I teach in my courses there. So before I start chatting with our amazing guest, Kathy McDaniel, I just want to talk a little bit about self-care. Especially around the holidays, everybody seems to be talking about self-care. It's really a buzzword. But what does it really mean? Is it about taking bubble baths or shopping sprees or massages or all those fun things, which could be part of it? But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think it's really a spiritual practice that some of us need to start taking a look at in our lives. So it's really about a bunch of different things. It's about self-forgiveness and self-acceptance and just knowing who we really are and functioning from a purposeful place, knowing what our true purpose is in life. I think that's the ultimate self-care. I don't think it's a superficial issue at all. I think part of it also is being willing and open to talk about what you need to say and feel your emotions and just get to the truth with people. And I know that's so hard sometimes in our world to do that, but that's really what it's about. And it's really about accepting yourself for who you really are. That's the hardest part, and that's the kind of work I do with people. I help them get to the point where they're able to see who they really are and resolve some of the old guilt they've been carrying around for lifetimes, and get to the point where there is true self-acceptance, and then go take bubble baths and shopping sprees and all of that from a whole different place. Part of it also is acknowledging your weaknesses and your need for growth, and whatever it is that you need, asking for what you need. So that amount of self-care and the ability to do that is stopped by a part of us that loves to sabotage ourselves. And that's, again, the work that I do with people is discovering and resolving that self-sabotage. So we can come from truly loving ourselves and not having to prove it, not having to get approval from everybody, and not having to take bubble baths to prove that we love ourselves. Sorry, if anybody needs to take a bubble bath right now, go for it. So it's not a selfish idea. I know a lot of people seem to think that the whole notion of self-love is that, we're selfish and concerned about ourselves, et cetera. It really isn't that. And as I said before, it's really a practice. It really is. So I want to lead into talking to Kathy McDaniel, who really went through quite a journey to get to self-love. And that's why I kind of started out the segment talking about that, because what a journey she took. And let me just give you a little bit of background about her. In 1999, she was hospitalized for lung failure, and she was placed on a ventilator and into a drug-induced coma. And during that time, she had a really disturbing near-death experience. I know that maybe some of you out there listening or watching have had near-death experiences, and maybe they were beautiful and wonderful and, angels and harps and all that stuff. But Kathy refers to hers as hellish and very disturbing, as I said. So because it was so traumatic, it took her quite a while to get past that and to resolve that. And she'll tell you about all that in a few minutes. Out of that also, she wrote a memoir that describes her experience and what she learned from it, which is what she's going to get into today a lot. Talk about why that happened, why such a horrendous experience. So I just want to welcome Kathy for being here today and sharing this. It's so exciting. I've been thinking about, I'm sure all people think about death, at least a little bit. I've been thinking about it my whole life and trying to understand it and trying to resolve the fears about it. And you had this experience that, boy, opened your eyes to everything. First of all, tell us, everybody wants to hear this. Tell us about your experience.
Well, Royce, it started in the coma. Just before the doctor put me out, he said, I'm going to give you something called white amnesia, and you will be unable to remember anything that happens while you're in the coma. Okay. Your brain is going to go offline and you won't remember anything. So I gave him a thumbs up, same thing to my family, and they put me out. But I don't know how long I was in the coma, 3 weeks or when, but I became conscious, and it was totally black and no sound. And I had no idea how I'd gotten there or where there was. So I kind of hung out, but eventually this reddish fog started to become visible. And I thought, well, maybe the sun's coming up. Well, then I started hearing screaming and moaning, and it got uncomfortably warm. The smell was terrible. And all of a sudden, I'm paying attention to all of this, trying to put together what might be happening. And this voice just boomed out of the fog and said, do you know where you are?
Gosh.
In a rather Bela Lugosi style. And my mind was racing, and I thought, oh, wow, I hope I'm wrong. And I said, hell? And then this voice came back with a kind of laugh.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, expletive, I'm out of here. So I just took a left and ran into the darkness. I didn't care if I fell in a hole or ran into a wall. I knew I had to get away from that thing. So that was the beginning of this adventure, which was having had 23 years to go back and go over all of this. And thank God I found the IONS community. There's a lot of near-death experiencers there, and a few of them had distressing. So over the years, I've understood that I had segments in this experience. And the first one was the lights kind of came up and I froze, and I looked around, and I was in this completely destroyed, huge city. There was big skyscrapers, but the windows were blown out. Half of them were laying on their sides, big pieces of concrete. There were fires and people screaming. And, just to become conscious in something like that is, horrific. So I thought, well, I should probably not be standing out here in the open. So I tucked in behind some concrete. And I thought, now what do I do? So I thought there was like this, it was foggy and smoky. And so I thought I saw some what might be beings in the fog, and one was coming closer, and I didn't know it was friend or foe. So I just said, hello, maybe we can get together and get food or something. And this voice came back, we are all alone here. And I thought, okay, I'm on my own, whatever this is. So I made a run for it when I started hearing these metallic scrapings and a big shadow went by. And I thought, uh-oh, this is aliens. This is what it is. So I thought I'd better find a better place. But as I went to climb up a wall, I fell backwards and the lights went out. And then the lights came back up, and I was in a totally different situation. There were numerous ones, as the book depicts, but I I think the first one that gave me some inkling that this was going to be out of this world was when I came up with a light and there was a demon standing there. And people say, how do you know it was a demon? Well, if you've never been to Australia and somebody says kangaroo, can you get a picture in your mind? So this was a big hulking thing, kind of like Bigfoot, I guess, with tattered clothes and a big club. And he looked down on me and I looked up at him, and I didn't know if I should run or just, I didn't know what to do. And he said, do you want to get out of here? And I thought, perfect English, huh? Okay. Yes, I do. And he said, okay, fine. I got a job for you. And I said, a job? And he says, yeah, all you got to do. And then the lights came up behind him. He says, I want you to cut down the blackberry field. Well, the canes, I don't know if you've ever been around blackberries, but they're pretty thick and spines and needles and stuff. And as far as I could see were these canes, they're all overlapping. And as far as you can see, and I thought, okay, I got nothing else to do. And he hands me these kindergarten scissors that you use to cut paper, and then starts to laugh, a rather evil laugh. And that ticked me off. I don't like to be tricked, and I thought I'm going to stand up to this character. So I tried to kneel down and start hacking away. I finally got one of them broken free, and I went to put it behind me. And when I did, it grew back right before my eyes. So now this demon is really chuckling. He's having a good day. So I thought, okay, fine. you're not going to beat me on this. He says, just give up, just despair, get over it. You're never getting out of here. And I said, no, I'm not. And so I went down and started cutting again. The lights went out, the lights came up. So I was in some places like a hospital. I thought it was a hospital when the lights came up, but it was bright lights, but uncomfortably bright, white, that antiseptic smell. And there was a door on either side of me. And I thought, great, maybe there's a way out. But when I looked up, there was another one of these huge demons at the end of the hallway with a truncheon, like a metal rod, like they use in prisons, starting it toward me. And I thought, oh, I got to make up my mind. So I looked to the left, looked to the right, and trying to make up my mind which way to go. And he was right in front of me. And it says, you've got a new job. And I thought, oh, great. And he says, you're going to go in that room. You're going to take what they give you. You're going to bring it across the hall, put it in this other room, and then come back and keep doing it. This is going to be your new job. So I thought, well, if I go in that room, I'm out of his sight. Maybe there's another door out. Maybe there's other people. I didn't have any clue the entire time I was there that I was dead. I just felt like me. I never thought to look down to see if I had a body. I could tell I had hands and stuff. So that really threw me. I just thought I was in some sort of strange alien country or something. But anyway, I went into this room. It had like gurneys on it with people laying on them, sheets on top of them, but things were dirty. And there were people sitting on stools in front of these bodies, but their legs were splayed. And I thought, there's some sort of operations going on here. I don't know what's going on. So one of the doctors raised a bloody hand, and I just looked at him, and he turned around and said, get over here. This is your job. So I scooted over, and I didn't know what to expect. He said, stick out your arms. So I did. And he had been doing an abortion on this woman. And so he put this poor torn up baby in my hands. And I was horrified. I mean, I was someone who worked at Birthright, which is a place to try and help ladies so they didn't have to have abortions. So this was pretty horrific for me. So he said, go to the other room. So I went in the hallway, still unable to talk. The demon points to the other room. I go to the other room, and as far as I can see in this huge warehouse is all these piles of all these deceased babies. I put the poor thing down and went back in the hall, and says, I'm not doing this. It's wrong, and I'm not going to do it. And he says, oh, you are asking for so much trouble. Don't you realize, if you don't do this, it's only going to get worse. And I says, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Well, boom, the lights went out and they came up. during some of this the intervals, I found myself on this road to nowhere. It was just dirt and some rock, but it appeared to be a path. So it only went two directions. When I found myself in one of these lights up situations, I had to pick a place. I just turned to the right and walked. I walked and walked and walked. It seemed like an endless road, but I felt at least like I wasn't running into terrible situations and demons. And it gave me almost a respite, even though it was boring and kind of dark. There was no stars, no moon. It was just kind of dusk with this reddish glow in the horizon. And I could at least turn around and see if something was sneaking up on me. So I felt relatively safe. I thought maybe the road would lead out. So I kept on it between some of these experiences. I did run into 4 living human beings on the road. I had never heard of anybody doing this. I've been doing speaking for about 10 years and never. So just recently somebody contacted me and says, do you know that this is a very rare occurrence? And she was going to do some studies on this. And so I'm involved in this study. But anyway, it turned out that I was supposed to give these people messages when I got back, which were unwelcome messages. I lost one of the friends. After a few months, she just wrote me off, and I've never talked to her since in 14 years.
These were people that you knew.
Yeah, relatives. And the other one I knew, and I told her about what I had seen. And she was going through a really, really terrible situation with her husband and her children. And she says, I can't deal with this right now, But years later, at a Christmas party, she came up with a glass of wine and she says, okay, sit down. I want to hear about this again. And it turned out, she says, this is just exactly a metaphor for what I was going through at the time. And you told me to, follow my heart and do what was right. And I did. And she says, it was so difficult, but I'm divorced. I've got my life back. I've got my self-esteem back. And I'm so glad that you told me that. So that was cool. The situations were very dark, and there was a terrible scene with zombies, that attacked me and then told me that now I have AIDS and I won't die and I'll just rot like they did. And, this was hell for me. And then at the very end, I didn't know that I was going to get out, but accidentally I did, by being a brat again, by doing something they told me not to do. And when that happened, all of a sudden the lights went out, but the lights came up and I was just infused with this love and bliss and joy, and everything that had happened before was gone. It was all replaced with this incredible love and joy. And I just felt like every molecule of me was just saturated and swimming in this glorious experience. And as I tumbled in this love, it started to turn into like the light kind of parted, and I could look like the inside of a Gothic cathedral or something. It was just high ceilinged and white and glowing and sparkling and gorgeous. And I was just reveling in, oh, what's next, And then I had become sick originally because I had been taking care of my best friend, and he had leukemia, and I took care of him for 9 months while he was in and out of the hospital doing a bone marrow transplant. And that is why I got sick. He had died. So the month before. So now I'm looking at him right now. And before he died, of course, his hair had all fallen out. His face was all swollen. He was all blotchy and sick. But now he looked stunning. I mean, he looked great. Instead of 53, he looked 35. He was wearing a sweater I had given him. He was happy, and he was just so excited to see me and me to see him. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is just too great, you know? And then I thought, uh-oh, he doesn't know he's dead, you know? And he started laughing so hard. And I thought, well, wait a minute. If he's dead, then I must be dead. and I thought, oh, this is terrific. You know, I'm in heaven with my best friend. And I noticed off to the side, this big table with a book, huge book, open about halfway. And something came to me and said, you know, he was showing you something in that book, but I don't remember what it was. I just remember saying, oh no, that's going to be too hard. I want to stay here with you. And I looked back at him, and he had come close to me, and he says, now, Mary Kay, that's what he called me. That's my name. You've got too much left to do. And I thought, oh no, they're throwing me out. I said, no. After what I'd just been through, I thought, I'm not going to go through that again. No, crossed my arms. Not going to happen. Poof. Back I came. There was a short timeout period for me there. And then I woke up in the hospital, and bright lights, lots of noise, and people yelling, mom's back, and oh, thank God. And I'm thinking, what fresh hell is this? You know, I can't move. I can't talk, you know, what's going on? So my daughter sits down and says, Mom, you've been really sick. We thought we lost you, but you're back, and you know, it's going to be a little bit of a rehab for you, but we're all here to support you. And yeah, there we are.
Huh. Wow. I've got so many questions. I don't know where to start. I just have to say this, and I know that people listening to this show or watching this show are already believers. They're people that are involved in metaphysics and spirituality, et cetera, which I've been, you know, involved with my whole life. But what about the people that are skeptics? What do they say when they hear you give this whole story? Do they say, oh, it must have been the drugs, or it must have been hallucinations? What do they say to all that?
They say that. And then I tell them the doctor said it was physically impossible for me to remember anything. And if it was a dream or hallucination, you'll remember that for a couple of days. But this has been almost 24 years, and I remember every minute of it. That was because I experienced it in my soul, not in my body or my brain.
Yeah. And so did you have any like religious beliefs at that point that might have been influencing it, or tell us about that?
Yeah, I was born and bred cradle Catholic. My parents were very devoted. I went to Catholic schools the whole time, had the nuns, the priests, the whole thing. Even when I went to college, it was a Catholic all-girls school. So yeah, I was steeped in the traditions and the teachings. And since I was a small child, I was taught there was heaven and purgatory and hell. And people like Mother Teresa go straight to heaven, but the rest of us, well, Kathy, we must spend time in purgatory first to get our sins burned off before we can go purely into God's presence. And I bought it. You know, I mean, there was no reason for me not to believe that. So my whole life was spent with the Catholic math problem, which is, okay, you do this that's wrong, you get 300 days in purgatory, okay? But if you say a rosary, you get 200 days off purgatory. Then if you go to mass 3 times a week, you get an extra 50. You know, it was a huge math problem. So by the time I died, I had been a bookkeeper, and I thought I screwed up my books. You know, I had more liabilities than assets in this situation. That was all I could figure out for a very long time. As things progressed, however, and I learned about ions and all the thousands of people who have had near-death experiences, and I could finally put a name on what happened to me, and I was able to talk to them. I even they drugged me up on a stage one meeting and invited me, push to tell my distressing near-death experience, because wow, they never had anybody in there to tell that, you know. So once I was able to finally tell my story after 12 years, I found a great they applauded, you got out. Great. There's hope for us. And it was like, wow, this is not usually what happens when I start to tell this story. So that was a redemption for me. And then I had to go to, well, why me? Why did this good Catholic girl go to hell? I mean, that's what my mom says. Kathy, what did you do to have to go to hell? We thought you were such a nice person. It's like, I don't have an answer. I don't know, but I don't want to do that again. That was the thing that kept me going on this, because I thought, shoot, I went through all of that hell stuff. Now I'm going to come back and be a human being. I'm going to load up on more sins, and then I'm going to have to do this all over again. I mean, I was frantic about not wanting to do that again. So over the years, I have come to believe, in talking to other people that have had this same experience, is that this thing about manifesting our beliefs. I believed I would go to purgatory / hell with all my heart. I just expected it, and I wasn't disappointed. I got to go. And the other thing that I learned about near-death experiences is that we all start off in heaven. Our home is heaven. We're pieces of God. Our souls are pieces of God. We plan our lives, we plan our experiences, what we want to learn, and then we come down and we live our lives. Then we go back home and we get a life review, and we get to see how we did. There's no judgment. God's not there with a scale. It's just you watching your life review with a couple of angels, maybe some guides. It's all positive. And then they flip this life review around, and it can become uncomfortable because now you feel how it was to interact with all these people throughout your life. And you felt if you were mean to that person, you feel their pain, their shame. It's not judgment. That's just, finding out how you did on earth and what you learned and what you could have done a little better and what you hit out of the park. And they're very comforting. And I'm told that you need to do this. You have to do this. You can't go to the next step unless you do your life review.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting thing to learn.
Yes. Wow. This is just fascinating. We need to take a break for a couple minutes, and we will be right back and talk a little bit more with Kathy about maybe what you learned or what you can advise people so they don't have to go through this. And sure. We'll be right back. Thank you.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities. Transform your life from triggered to empowered with the Perfect Life Awakening program. Royce Morales' extraordinary, enlightening, spiritually based teachings that get to the core of subconscious underlying motivations driving your life. With more than 4 decades as a transformational facilitator and author, Royce Morales offers ways to awaken your deserving, authentic existence, free from paralyzing issues, repetitive patterns, and programmed fears, while simultaneously awakening your spiritually aware higher consciousness, purposeful self. Perfect Life Awakening offers remote group classes and one-on-one sessions to explore even deeper levels. Check out Royce Morales' books, Want, True Love, Past Lives, and Other Complications. No, a Spiritual Wake-Up Call. and back, rebirth after stroke. Learn more about Perfect Life Awakening and Royce Morales. Visit roycemorales.com.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Kathy McDaniel. She is a near-death experience expert and author that talks about her experience. And boy, fascinating. Again, I've got so many questions. I'm just blown away. So first of all, I have in my meditative inner work, I've gotten in touch with Between Lives memories. And they're always really interesting, but they're always about, here's what you're supposed to do, Royce. You're supposed to write this book and you're supposed to do this. And I'm given this list of requirements, so to speak. But it's never been unpleasant. It's always been just fascinating, but never scary and unpleasant like you experienced. Why do you think that is?
I think I planned it. And, I've come to accept that. I love Nancy Evans Bush. She wrote three great books. She had a disturbing near-death experience. And Howard Storm and Betty Eadie. I finally found those books and I got to talk to Nancy Evans Bush. And she says that in planning our lives, there are certain brave individuals that will undertake a difficult journey, just like the epic stories back from the Greeks, go into the darkness and bring back the truth for others. And I but eventually came to that conclusion that I wasn't a damned soul. I was a brave soul. And then I came back with the understanding that God is all loving and all forgiving and would never condemn anybody. And that it is our own misshapen beliefs that caused this sort of situation. So I'm here to say, skip the trip. I don't care who tells you, whether it's your religion or your parents or your culture, that God is judgmental, mean. No, God is not any of those things. And the only way you're going to suffer in the afterlife is if you believe you will, and then inadvertently choose it. So, since then, I have had to switch my beliefs to being spiritual, not religious. I had to put all that aside. There was just nothing I could keep there that was healthy for me. I believe that any religion that helps a person become loving and kind is the perfect religion for them. But once they start, digging into God and making him an ogre, it's time to kind of move away from that. Is what I did. I can't tell anybody what to do, but I was told to be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful. That's all I needed to know. Because I had said, well, what about the thou shalt not this and thou shalt not that? And it's like, no, those are negative things. I want you to concentrate on the positive. And even just to remember every morning to say that, which I do, but to be loving and kind in everything you run up against that's difficult. If you can say, take a breath and say, how can I be loving and kind in this situation? The world would be such a nicer place.
Yes. Wow. So you say that God, you keep referring to God. What was your experience of God? Was it an energy, a
Yes.
being? Okay, tell us about
Yes, I think I do a lot of stuff on Gaia, and I've always been interested in this black energy and all of that stuff. But to me, God was everything. I mean, we learned that as little kids. Who is God? God is love. Where is God? God is everywhere, and God is everywhere. Everything is God, and if God didn't think about it, it wouldn't exist. So yes, it was this fantastic, loving, beautiful, pure energy. So there's no God to look at, it's just love. It's hard to describe.
I understand. Yeah. And you're referring, I heard you say the word segments. What is that?
That, I think, after all the time I've had to think about this and other people I've talked to, I made my own hell. So I took the hellish experiences that I had to date. I took them and I made a hell out of them by making them bigger. It was only recently that I finally figured out the bombed out city. I was in Santa Cruz, California in 1989 when the big Loma Prieta earthquake hit. I was downtown in my office when the downtown came down, and the shaking and people screaming and the fire engines and car alarms going off. I had to hide under my desk. I had to try and get home where the freeways were damaged. And so that was my hell, the hellish experience that I took. There was, of course, working with ladies that wanted to keep their babies. So I flipped that around and made that an abortion clinic. I could, as far as the zombies and the rape scene, I was raped. And that was a horrific thing. I brought that to my hell. So that energy, that negative energy that I carried, took me to a place. And this is something I'm just learning about now, Royce, about since energy cannot be destroyed, only changed, what about all the negative energy? And a man I met recently has also written a book about hell, and he's studied a lot of people, and he has come up with a space somewhere. There's a name for it. It's hard to pronounce, but where the negative energy tends to pool or gravitate somewhere. And so you can't enter heaven with negative energy. So supposedly in the life review, if you go ahead and process that life review, the negative energy dissipates and then you move forward. But there are people that won't give up that negative energy or can't. So they might drift or be drawn to this pool of negative energy and bring their concepts of hell with them. We don't know. We can only surmise, and each little NDE brings back a teeny tiny piece of the puzzle, and we kind of put them together to see. But heaven is so immense, and eternity is something we can't wrap our little human minds around. So we won't know until we get over there and stay what exactly is going on. But that's the best that I've been able to come up with, that I feel good about. But everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
So you said stay. What about the concept of reincarnation? Where does that fit with you?
People that come back all seem to think that happens. And again, eternity is a long time. I mean, 100 years down here is just a blink. And so I've accepted that, and past lives. I've done some past life regression. I find that very interesting. I plan to go other places. I'm going to stay clear of Earth, I'll tell you. I've been told by a couple of people that there's like this, not real, but like a badge you get for going to Earth, that's the toughest gig. They people come up and say, "Oh man, you went to Earth. Tell me about it. You must be brave." Yeah, that's really dense energy down there. I believe that. And so, yeah, that's again, to think that all of us people here on Earth are very brave souls to come try and bring light, enlightenment, and love to this dark place. So I think we could congratulate ourselves for being here, but I'll probably skip that next time and go to a place a little more friendly.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I heard a funny quote years ago. Somebody, I don't even remember who it was, but they said, if you're boasting that you're not coming back, don't burn your luggage. You're not
That's
done
terrific.
here.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well,
Yeah.
there's no reason not to. I mean, if I came to that conclusion once earlier, because I thought, with all the billions of people that have been on this earth, God's got to recycle, I would think, and take the souls and put them back in bodies and do it over again, because boy, that would get tedious. Just, I don't know. I'm a logical person. I just,
Yeah. What about, given the work that I do, which is helping people resolve some of that negative energy and release it, have you experienced that you can actually do that without leaving the body and going to that realm? What is your opinion about that?
I think it's so important, Royce, what you're doing, and people need to take that seriously. I guess for me, it took something like that to make me, to allow me to let go of all those beliefs, shame, guilt that us recovering Catholics carry. I hesitate to say it, but a great number of people that I talked to that went to hell are Catholics, because they believed in it so strongly, and we've got this Catholic guilt thing going on. And it was hard. It took that wake up call for me. And I feel so blessed and know my purpose now. I can spend every day saying, it's all good. I know the ending. It's a happy ending. I don't stress about stuff. Things come up I'm not crazy about. And I say, well, I planned that. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not a victim. I planned it. What's the lesson? It just completely changes everything. I really encourage you to keep your work up.
Yeah, well, I'm not planning on stopping.
Good.
Yeah, that's exactly what people get in touch with when they work with me. They realize, they see why they set something up, or why they needed to go through that experience, or why they even attracted it or chose it. It's all chosen. Everything is chosen. So the victim stuff goes away real fast. Yeah.
You're right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about your book. Tell us, I know you were told that you had to share this message. So tell us what happened with that.
Yeah, well, I was always a writer, even from the time I was in grade school. I loved to write and write stories. So after this experience, when nobody would talk to me about it, I felt so haunted by it. I thought, well, if I can just write this story out, maybe I can stick it in a drawer and it'll go away. Wrong. So I kept writing and writing and writing and writing. And finally, I was at a IONS conference, and a lady who was a medium was starting her own publishing company. She'd been in the business for a long time, and I didn't really understand what mediums were at the time. But she came up to me and said, "You need to write a book." And they say, "You need to write a book." And I thought, okay, I can't sidestep this. I'll do it. So that was about, oh gosh, right when COVID hit is about the time I was stuck in the house, and I thought, might as well write a book, which I did. And I found that there was a terrific inspiration that came. I got downloads of stories from my family, the deceased ones, and saying, okay, this is why this happened, and this is why this happened, and so the book, I didn't quite write itself, but I was helped to write it, and I had to start with my family back a couple of generations to bring forward to now, to who I am and why I am the way I am, and then to go forward with what happened and where I am today. So it's a light-hearted book, except for the hell thing. You can't. There's no sense of humor in hell. That's one of the worst things about it. But it's a light and empowering and happy ending book. I'll show it to you. I mean, it's called Misfit in Hell, because I wouldn't do what they told me. And Heaven Expat. Expat is somebody that lives in one country, does their work in another, and then goes back home. So we all start in heaven, and we're all heaven expats.
Wow, I love that. I just have to say there's no humor in hell. I think that should be a bumper sticker.
It sucks. I mean, nobody had a sense of humor. And that's the only way I get through things. So that's what made it so terribly difficult for me.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. My husband, just real briefly, he had a stroke about 8 years ago, and he is unable to speak, but somehow he is the funniest guy on the planet, and he's able to just crack everybody up all the time. And I looked at him the other day and I said, "Are you ever sad?" And he goes, "No." No.
What a blessing. What a blessing.
I know. It's such a blessing for me and for everybody that he touches. People just fall in love with him and his quirky, crazy wackiness. So I think there's something to that. I really do.
Huge. God's got a great sense of humor. Look around.
I know. One more thing I have to share about that. I was reading one of Ram Dass's books years ago before I was teaching, and somebody approached him and said, Ram Dass, Guru Ram Dass, how do you find the best guru for you? And he looks at them and he goes, look for laugh lines and a twinkle in their eye.
Oh, perfect.
Isn't that perfect?
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah. So you keep mentioning a group IANDS. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's the International Association of Near-Death Studies. There are, if 1 in 10 people have an NDE, you can imagine how many billion people are on the planet right now who have had them. I was in a group the other day, and I was the only person until I found out 2 more out of the 4 had experiences. So, not everybody talks about it. So the IANDS is full of the most wonderful, formerly dead people you'll ever want to meet. Those are the nicest people that you ever want to get around. The energy at our conferences is just so up and buoyant. You hate to leave and go back to the real world after you've been around people that have seen God. I mean, it kind of changes you.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. So they've been a great help. Lots of resources. I've got a distressing near-death experience sharing group on IANDS now. It's the second Thursday of the month, I think. But if you get on IANDS.org, there's just amazing stories and sharing groups for everybody, including people, there's a Christian group and a Jewish group, and they're not non-religious. They're just trying to be on the positive side. Take the positive out of your religion.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds wonderful. So if you were to give our listeners and our viewers just a morsel of advice, what would you say? Yes, love and all of that, but is there anything else that you could say that would help people avoid or not go through such a hellish experience?
I think the trick is just to approach your life being loving and kind. We are, I'm told a lot of the praise or joy or whatever on your life review is them pointing out the times that you did little things that made a difference, helping the old lady across the street, giving the homeless guy $5. Those are the things that are important. They don't ask if you've got a degree. They don't ask how much money you have. None of that is all that important. We need those things to live, but to try and focus on being loving and kind, and you'll be fine. You'll just be fine.
Yeah. And even faking it, it's like, if we don't feel loving and kind, should we do it anyway?
That situation is probably one that you chose to challenge yourself. And if you can look at that as, okay, I really don't like this in-law of mine. She drives me up a wall. That I chose that in-law. That's where that non-victim thing comes in. And I have to really, really work at being not only kind, but civil to this person. That's something I chose. And I can say, no, I'll do this in another lifetime, or I can get it taken care of now.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people that if somebody pushes your buttons, or if you can't stand that in-law, that person is reflecting a part of yourself to look at. It's a part that we don't want to see, but we're in some way like that. And we've learned to suppress it and deny it.
Yeah,
So that
I
would be
agree.
another suggestion I would give. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a
And we
mirror.
chose them to show us that part of us. They're in our
Right.
life to wake us up to that part of us. And it's not easy.
It's not pleasant. That
really
mirror
is.
can be cruel, can't it?
Mirror, yeah. I mean, I can't even tell you how difficult that is for my students to reach that point where they almost instantly are able to see that, oh, that person that I just want to kill, that person is me.
I know. No, that's, yeah. But that's why we're here, to learn. We don't need to be rough on ourselves. We've got to love ourselves too.
Yes.
That's so
Yes.
important.
Yeah. So tell us, I know that you're writing a second book, or you've already written a second book. Is that true?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe
I'm
you're
so
supposed
busy.
to.
I'm so
Sorry,
busy
Kathy.
just promoting this one. If something comes to me in the future, I will, of course, look at that. But I'm really pushed to push this message right now, and that's what I'm doing, like 6 hours a day. Getting on podcasts, and God bless COVID for bringing us podcasts. It's
Yes.
you can talk to people all over the planet and never leave home. So I think they have been a tremendous blessing in my life, the podcast. So thank you for having me on your program.
Oh,
Thank
gosh, you're very welcome. Show your book again. So
I'll show my book again. Okay, there it is. And it's on Amazon, and it's in Kindle. It's cheaper on Kindle. And I've got Audible and a CD. I just want to let you know that the most important thing you can do for an author is leave an Amazon review. I mean, it takes us years to write and publish, and lots of money out the door. And very few of us will ever even see the money we put out to publish the book. So please take 10 minutes and leave us a review.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I highly recommend it. I was reading a review, and this is what it said. It said, uplifting, humorous, chilling, and engrossing. It takes the reader by the hand to safely explore our human and otherworldly selves. Its gentle message will help you find your way along the bumpy earthly road to eternity. And I think that really, really states it all.
Good.
So
Good.
thank you so much, Kathy.
Well,
thank you
thank
for all you went through to help people, and just keep on getting that message out, because it's so important. It really is. Yeah.
Thanks
And it
so
just
much,
kind of,
Royce.
and it kind of leads me back to what I started the discussion this morning about, which is self-care. And I just want to remind everyone, take good care of yourself. You deserve radical self-care, not just bubble baths. It's not about the bubble baths. It's taking action from a place of loving yourself completely. And if that means, like Kathy was saying, discovering why you chose something or what is being reflected to you about yourself, that's what's going to do it. And feeling okay about yourself and going through whatever you're going through and seeing it as a lesson, seeing it as part of your journey that you chose. So that's what radical self-care is. So thank you so much, Kathy. And just to remind everybody, I'll be back the third Wednesday of the month, and that's December 21st, and I'm going to be chatting with Sophia Dimas about how there are no coincidences. And she too is an author. So you can find out more about me and what I do on roycemorales.com. My teachings are called Perfect Life Awakening, and that is really what they're about. It's about awakening to your perfection within so that you can go through life and not have hellish experiences like just described, and forgiving ourselves and releasing all of that old stuff. So I appreciate all of you for being here today, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you again, Kathy.